My name is Michael. I'm one of the co-founders of Collaboard. I'm sitting here in Switzerland near Zurich. It's very windy and stormy outside, but I hope we will not be affected by that during the webinar. Cool, then let's kick off. Welcome to today's Collaboard webinar with the topic First Steps into Digital Whiteboarding. It's a session for beginners, and my goal is to explain to you how Collaboard works. And we will also check on some practical use cases like brainstorming, mind mapping, and also how to use the whiteboard in meetings and workshops. But before we're doing that, we will shortly look on why do we need an online whiteboard and why is visual collaboration very important nowadays for modern organizations. So I think everything started after the pandemic, where people started to work more remotely and from different places, in the office, at home, on the go. And yeah, we still need a way to communicate, and we have video to talk with each other and to see each other. We have chat to exchange text messages, but we also need a way to be creative, to plan together, and to make decisions. And in the past, we used for this very often flip charts or the traditional whiteboards with post-its. And nowadays, we're just doing it digitally. So the tool Collaboard, which I will introduce to you today, is in the end the evolution of the flip chart and the traditional whiteboard into the digital world. Yeah, and imagine you start now a whiteboard, so you're in front of an empty whiteboard, and now you have a meeting coming up, or you want to collect ideas or plan a project or something like that. So the screen is blank, and you're asking yourself, where do I start? And that's exactly where our journey begins today. So I will show you how to turn an empty digital space into a lively whiteboard in just a few minutes. So full of ideas, structures, and collaboration. So this is what you can do with Collaboard. So any online meeting, remote workshop becomes much more interactive and lively when you use an online whiteboard where everybody can work together in real time and do things visually. And I think that's one of the most important part, because human beings are usually visual people, right? So in this case, doing things here like that has important effects on the quality of meetings, also how engaged people are. And this will lead in, let's say, most of the situations into better results. So the main goal here is with an online whiteboard, and especially with Collaboard, to create better results when we work together, either online, on site, or also in hybrid scenarios. Yeah, so now what is Collaboard? So Collaboard, it's an online whiteboard and visual workspace. We will see afterwards, when we go through the different elements we can put on the whiteboard, that Collaboard goes far beyond the traditional online whiteboard, where you can work a little bit with sticky notes, but you can also add many kind of different interactive media like videos and images and things like this. And it's made for meetings, workshops, and also project work. So there are a lot of different use cases, and a little bit later I will walk you through the templates, and the templates in Collaboard. That's a great example of many different use cases, how you can use the online whiteboard to improve collaboration inside your company or organization. Collaboard is a product developed in Switzerland, and one of our main focus, besides UX and the feature-rich online whiteboard, is security. So we offer Collaboard either securely hosted in the cloud, or there is also the option to self-host Collaboard in your own data center, dependent on your security and compliance guidelines. Now, let's start with the dashboard. So when you start with Collaboard, when you log in, and I will show you this live in a few seconds, usually you see the dashboard, and what you see in the dashboard is an overview about all your whiteboards. And as Collaboard is more than just an online whiteboard, we call a whiteboard a project. So that's one of the main differences. And then there are spaces, and the space is somehow like a folder for projects where you can organize all your whiteboards. And in the dashboard itself, you have an overview about your recent whiteboards. You have a global search that allows you to find any content in all the whiteboards you have created. We have some notifications. Notifications are super important when it comes to asynchronous collaboration. Everybody can adjust the profile. So Collaboard is available in different languages. You can use it in English, in Italian, in French, in Swedish, and so on. And then in the dashboard, you also find a list of all the whiteboards. Now, the presentation I'm doing, I'm already on one whiteboard. And to go now back to the dashboard, I just click here on the upper left on the Collaboard icon. And now I see here my dashboard with my project, my whiteboard. Here I see a space. For example, I created a space for all the weekly meetings. So I move all the boards which we are using in our weekly meetings into that specific space. To create now a new whiteboard, that's super easy. We can just click here on New Project, give it a title, maybe a brainstorming session, and we click on Create Project. And then we start with an empty board, or we can choose one of these lovely templates which are organized in use cases, basically. So this is the dashboard and how you create your first board. Now, let's go back to our board where we kicked off. And the next thing I would like to explain to you is the toolbar. So the toolbar in Collaboard is what we see here on the left side. So these are all the different elements we can add to the whiteboard itself. And when we check what we have here, so we have all these basic elements like cards / sticky notes. You can add text, shapes, and lines. So these are the basics. Then it's possible to create mind maps directly in Collaboard. So we have an integrated mind map tool on the whiteboard, and I will show you a little bit later how it works. It's possible to add tables and work with frames on the board. Then Collaboard supports the usage of media like images, videos, and documents. So you can upload these different kind of medias to the board and then work with them dependent on which use cases you want to fulfill. There are over 200 templates you can use, and it's possible to add comments to the board and also to put in tasks. So when it comes to project management, working with tasks in Collaboard, it's something super useful because you can assign tasks to people and you can put in due dates and many other things. But this is something I will tell you a little bit later. So for now, it's important to understand that we have here the toolbar on the left side that allows us to put elements on the whiteboard itself. When we started with Collaboard, we knew that for many people, working with an online whiteboard, it's a new way of working. It's a new experience, and it's maybe a little bit different from what we know by just collaborating with in-document, real-time editing, or using chat and video conference. So we thought about the way that the interaction with the elements on the whiteboard is always the same. So this means adding, editing, modifying, and moving objects on the board always works the same way. And I would like to show you this on a specific example of the sticky note, so you get an understanding on how things work. And then we look at some specific functions for videos, images, and so on. So let's add a sticky note. To do that, we just click here on the toolbar. Now we can select a squared or rectangle sticky note. Let's go for a rectangle. And we're adding here a yellow sticky note directly to the board. Now we can start directly writing down ideas, starting with a brainstorming session or whatever. So what's now the same for all the whiteboard elements is this toolbar here. So this allows us to modify the existing objects on the board. For example, here we could change the color of the sticky notes. We can adjust the opacity for a sticky note. That's maybe not super important, but if you work with images and other elements on the board, that's very useful. I can choose from many different fonts, a little bit based on how I would like to style the sticky note and the content in it. And then I have here all the traditional text layout option. And you see already we used icons that are fairly similar to what we have in PowerPoint and other solutions. So in this case, we can change the font color, we can make it bold, italic, and so on. And we have also the option to align the text in the sticky note itself. But to be honest, in most of the time, it fits perfectly when the text on the sticky note is in the center. Now, when we add a second sticky note, so let's do this here. So we just add this blue one. We see now the second sticky note is on top of the yellow one. And you need to imagine when you add objects to the online whiteboard, a new object is always on top. But this doesn't need to be, because it's possible to arrange them. So for example, to move them to the front, to move them backward, and so on. So for example, here, by just moving the sticky note backward, we can put it behind the already existing sticky note. And now we have here also the option to duplicate an element. We can delete it by clicking on the trash bin. And going here to these three dots allows us now to use also some specific features for sticky notes and all the other elements on the board. And how this works, this is something we will check a little bit later. But I think now the important message is, if you click on an object, you always get the toolbar, and this toolbar allows you to modify the existing object, basically. To move an object, just click on it, move it around. So that's super easy. Or to move on the board, just make a right click. And you see now my mouse pointer turns into this small hand, which allows me to move in any direction on the board itself. Yeah, and this is how it works for all the other elements. So once you understood how to add and modify a sticky note, you also know how it works for all the other elements, which we can add here via the toolbar onto the online whiteboard. Now let's have a look at some specific features, and we will start with images and videos. And images are super important, because when we work with an online whiteboard, we can really use this different kind of media to style things, to do things in a visual way. So using images just triggers other behavior of people when collaborating together. It's not just text, it gets more visual, and that's the important thing. So adding images to Collaboard in the end is super easy. Most of the time, I'm just opening my File Explorer and drag and drop them to the board. Alternatively, I can click here, go to images, and I can upload an image by browsing here my file system. Or I can also take a picture. So this can make sense when I have a laptop, but I think the coolest use case is when you open Collaboard on your mobile phone, and then you can take a picture and add it directly to the board itself. Last but not least, there is an integrated web search. So for example, here we could search for images on the web, and with just one click, we can add an image from the web search directly to the whiteboard itself. Now, if we check on the toolbar now here, so you see, it looks a little bit different than what we have seen before. As for the image, we have some specific features. For example, it's possible to flip and rotate an image. So very similar to what you already know from other software when you add an image into a Word document, a PowerPoint file, or whatever. What we can do as well, we can crop an image. So let's say we would like only to display here this blackboard with the sticky notes in it. So we have here the option to crop an image, and moving around the image works exactly the same way as it does also for the sticky notes and so on. Important message: if you click on an image, you have some specific image tools you can use to work with this specific element on the board itself. Now, images are cool, but which makes things really interactive, these are videos. And this is why we allow in Collaboard to upload and record videos. Adding a video works exactly the same like with the images. So you just click here and select videos. Now you can upload a video file from your computer, or you can also record a video directly with your camera. And that can be very handy. Let's imagine you're planning a workshop and you would like to put a personalized video message on the board for your workshop attendees. Or you give feedback to an idea or a concept that is presented on the whiteboard. Why just use text? I mean, nowadays we do it in the private world very often with audio messages or with videos, and this is also possible in Collaboard. So you can record videos and audio messages and put them directly to the board. And last but not least, there is also the option to search in YouTube and then put the YouTube video here directly to the board itself and embed this multimedia content. Just on a side note, the integration for images and for YouTube, that's available to all our cloud users. In some cases, when customers host Collaboard on-premise in their own environment, even in an air-gapped scenario, then these integrations are not always available, or customers don't want to use them. So in this case, we can deactivate these features and people can't access them. Yes. Now, let's have a look at the video, because there is one very cool feature for videos. So you can, first of all, you can play videos on the whiteboard. So that's one thing. So we could play here these videos with these pies flying around the mountains with the candles, which is obviously an AI videos. And now the cool thing is we can stop the video at any moment and we can take a screenshot out of the video. So let's do that. So out of the video, we took now a screenshot, and let's say we would like to figure out which part of the video is AI. Now, in this case, there are, of course, a lot of things. We can, for example, start using here the drawing tools, and then we can draw and annotate directly on the screenshot from the video. And there are many different scenarios. Imagine you have a tutorial or a learning video and you can upload it to Collaboard. Then the attendees, they can stop it at any time, take a screenshot. Maybe even if the presenter is showing some slides, then you can take a screenshot directly to the board and not just use the annotation feature, but you can also add a sticky note, write down your thoughts, your ideas, or whatever. So you have a very nice way to collaborate together in real time with others on this specific content here on the board itself. Yeah, so this is how it works with images and videos. And the next specific feature set I would like to show you is for documents. Because we all work with a lot of documents, if it's a Word file, a PowerPoint, a PDF, Excel, or whatever. And in some cases, it's very handy to upload these to the online whiteboard and then visualize them. And I will show you a few use cases and what you can do with it. So here we see a document which I uploaded to Collaboard. Again, the toolbar is slightly different. And one thing we can do is we can, for example, browse now through the different pages of that document. So that's already quite cool. So we can view the content of the document directly on the whiteboard. On the other hand, when we really want to do something with them, maybe we want to optimize a flyer, or we need to analyze some content directly from this document. So in this case, there is also the option to extract pages. So let's maybe extract page 1 to 3. And if we're doing that, you see now all the pages are just visualized next to each other. And now we can, let's say, zoom in a little bit and again leverage, for example, the drawing tools. So in this case, we are, let's say, using the highlighter, so we can highlight maybe important information in that document. We have the option to also use then the other ink features, and so on. So we have many different ways now to work visually on these kind of documents. And imagine now you have maybe 5 documents relevant to your project. So you can put all of them inside Collaboard, next to your brainstorming session, next to your project plan, and so on. So you have everything related to a specific topic on your online whiteboard, always accessible and always visible. So you don't need to open 5 times in your browser or in your PDF reader different documents. So you have everything directly on the whiteboard itself. Of course, this works well when everybody is on the board, and how to invite someone to your whiteboard is something I will show you in a few minutes. But one thing I would like to tell you here is that Collaboard also works well in a scenario where people don't work at the same time on the board. So where we have asynchronous collaboration, and one very useful feature to implement this is the comment. So here on the left side, we can add comments to any objects on the board. So let's add here a comment. Let's open the comment, and now I can, for example, mention someone and say, check this out, there is a new information, I would like you to review that, and so on. And if I'm doing this, then this person first of all gets a notification. You have been mentioned in that comment. And there is also an email. So if you're working in different time zones, you can mention other people. They will get an information. Hey, you have been mentioned in this comment on that specific whiteboard. And in the email, there is just a link where people can click on, and then they jump to this specific comment on the board where they can answer then directly into the comment. Thanks, I will do. And so on. So this is a very nice way for asynchronous collaboration, or you can also use the command for real-time chat on the board itself. Last but not least, if you have a document on Collaboard, you can always download the original file. So in this case, it's a PDF, and I can download this PDF again to my computer if this is something I would like to do. Yeah, and these were some specific features for the media elements we can put to the whiteboard itself. And now as the next steps, we will look at some practical examples. And let's start with the use case of brainstorming. It may be very obvious, but brainstorming is happening with sticky notes. But I would like to tell you a little bit more about how to brainstorm in the online whiteboard, and would like to challenge a little bit the free brainstorming, where just everybody's adding sticky notes however they want, versus the predefined structure brainstorming. And I will show you how to add a template so to really kickstart a brainstorming session on the whiteboard itself. Now, free brainstorming, in the end, super easy. Everybody who is on the board is just adding sticky notes, writing ideas on it. So this usually works very well. People can do this in real time, and while someone is editing a sticky note, it's locked for other users to interact with this sticky note. To make this kind of brainstorming successful, people usually need to understand how to add sticky notes. This is one thing, and how to basically write on a sticky note. That's not super difficult, but if you are doing a brainstorming session with people who might never had used an online whiteboard before, you can also make it a little bit easier for them. And how to do that? You just prepare the sticky notes which are already on the board, because if the sticky notes are already there, then they just need to click on it and can start writing immediately. So they don't need to add a note directly to the board. And to do this, I would like to introduce you to one of our templates. And this is the brainstorming template. So in case we would like to do that, we just open here the template library, click on brainstorming, do a search, and then here we will find a brainstorming template, which we can add in a few seconds to the whiteboard. Now, what do we see here? So first of all, we see a title, and now we see already a lot of sticky notes. And the sticky notes, they are pre-prepared, so people can start writing on them immediately. And the cool thing here is, as all of the sticky notes are organized in a very nice way, people can't move them around, so they can just write on them. And this is something we have seen quite often, that when you have a free brainstorming session, which actually it's cool, and if everybody's experienced, works very great. But on the other hand, then people maybe move sticky notes from other people, they create a sticky note above the other one, and so on. And by doing it with a structure like this, you basically overcome this challenge and make it as easy as possible for your attendees. Now, let me show you, or let me explain you how this template is designed. So first of all, we have here this title, and this is something that is locked. What does it mean when it's locked? Nobody else can change it or move it around until you unlock it. The sticky notes here, they are not locked, but they have another state. They are pinned. And what does this mean? If a sticky note is pinned, then it can't be moved, so nobody can change the structure, but people can still write on the sticky note and add text. So this is the combination of locking elements that can't be moved and changed, and pinning elements that can't be moved but still edited and changed. Now let's imagine we're doing here our brainstorming session. All the people add different ideas, and now maybe you would like to prioritize what has been added. So in this case, we have these circles which people can just move here next to the sticky note, and use this, for example, to put prioritization if this is important or not. So this works well if you just have a few ideas and would like to do it in a manual way. There is also an option to use an integrated voting and rating system from Collaboard, but that's not the topic of our webinar today. This is something I will explain in the webinar next week. So just a short teaser. Next week, we're doing a session where we go deeper into Collaboard and all these different features. But for now, I just wanted to give you these hints about the brainstorming session and how you can also use one of our templates to brainstorm together with others. Now, the next example is creating mind maps. Mind maps is also a great methodology to be creative, to organize thoughts, to structure knowledge. And in Collaboard, there are two ways of creating mind maps on the board. So first of all, you can use the integrated mind map tool. This is what I will show you at the beginning. And then there is also the option to link elements on the board in a very free way. So we will have a look at both of them and also check pros and cons, and in which cases, what is the better approach. Let's start with the mind map module. So here, let's go to an empty space on the board. So here on the left side, we have here the mind map module where we can just add a mind map node to the board. So that's our central node. And now we can start clicking here on the plus, creating some subnodes, some trees inside the mind map. And you see we are very quick in creating a mind map. We could even use keyboard shortcuts and so on. So that's a nice way to create a mind map on Collaboard. Let's imagine now we would like to change the text here. So maybe we don't like the text format. So in this case, what we can do is we can always select all the nodes, like I'm doing it here. And now you see, if you recall the beginning of the toolbar, that's always the same. That's works always the same, but it's different for specific objects. When you select multiple objects, then it shows you all the options, what you can do with them. So in our case here, as these are all elements with text, we have the option to adjust the text if this is something you would like to do. We can change the font and so on. So this means you can also do multiple operations on multiple objects at the same time. Now, the mind map can be done like this. So in this case, we have here these curved lines. But when you click on the central node, you can also switch that. For example, you can say you would like to have orthogonal lines. That's one option. Or you can also use this mind map module, for example, to create an org chart. And if someone has created an org chart in PowerPoint for not just a team with 5 people, you might have faced some issues with not having enough space. So the slide just was not big enough. And the online whiteboard here, and that's the cool thing, it's really infinite in its size. So we could zoom out here a lot, right? So we see now, okay, now we see almost the whole journey we have done today. And in our case here, we see now that we are at the zoom level at 5%. So if we zoom in again, now we're 23%, and we can go really deep into the board. Okay, now the font is a little bit big, up to 400% and see everything in detail. So when you create an org chart, a mind map or whatever, you will never run out of space because the board provides you enough space to do these kind of activities. And talking about org chart, nobody will do an org chart with the organizational structure on the right side. It's always top down. And to achieve that here, you can just click on the mind map node again and change the orientation. And you see we are almost into, we could build here like this an org chart or many other kind of diagrams. So this is the way how to create a mind map using the mind map module in Collaboard. On the other hand, you can also do it much freer. For example, we can start adding here a shape. So let's just add here a shape to the board and maybe a sticky note. Now, when we add a shape, again, toolbar is the same, but slightly different. For example, for the shape, we have a fill color, then we have a border, we can adjust the border however we want, so there is a lot of flexibility. But what I want to show you now is that if I'm selecting here the shape, you see here these 4 circles. And these 4 circles allow me now to connect one element with another on the board. Now we maybe just duplicate this sticky note because we're talking still about mind mapping, right? So I could also create a mind map now using a shape and sticky notes directly on the board itself. What's now very useful is these lines, because there are a lot of different ways how you can adjust the lines. So let's make it just a little bit more intensive. We can change the color and all these other things, but we can also put on, let's say, an arrow at the start point or at the end. So in this case, we could also visualize how data flows. And now imagine these lines, you can't just use them for doing mind maps. You can also use them to create diagrams, network charts, and whatever, because in the end, you can super freely adjust these lines based on your needs. So they can either be curved, or when we talk now more about diagramming, you also have the option to put something like this. And now you can freely adjust them and just make sure that they are basically fitting your diagram or whatever you are planning to do. So the line here, or these connectors, is a very powerful feature that allows you to do much more than just mind maps or connections between elements. It's really designed for doing diagrams, visualizing workflows, and things like that. Now let's have a look at the, let's say, last practical example, last use case from today. And here I would like to talk a little bit about workshops and meetings and how to prepare them for your attendees. And now the big question is how to invite someone to Collaboard. So in the end, it's super easy, as we have here on the upper right this sharing icon. And now we can invite people to the board. This can be either registered users, meaning people who have an account in Collaboard, or this can be guest users. Guest users are people who do not need an account. They just click on a link, access the board, and work as a guest on that specific board. Now, as I was saying in the beginning, security is something very important to us. So first of all, I can choose different permissions. So for example, all the registered users should have editor permission, while our guest users, they should at the beginning at least only be able to view the content on the board. I can define how long this invitation shall be valid. So let's put here, for example, just 1 hour. And I have also the option to protect any board with a password. So in this case, I need a password to be able to access this board as a second factor, just in case the link you created to share the board is going somewhere where it shouldn't. You always have the second factor that prevents people from unauthorized access to the board itself. And the last option we see here, it's the option for the guest users. So you can define if the guest users need to provide a name. That can be very useful, so you know who is on your board. But in some use cases, it also can make sense that you don't know who is on your board. Let's say you're doing an open feedback session where people should be able to put feedback anonymously. So in this case, you can just remove that, and then guests would join the board without the need to provide a name. Now, sharing a board is quite easy. You have here just this link, which you can put into a meeting invitation. You can share it during a session in the chat. On the other hand, you can invite people by email, or what's also very handy is you can create a QR code. Let's say you're doing a hybrid or on-site session with Collaboard, then people can just scan with the mobile phones or their tablets or laptops the QR code and access the board in this way. So these are a few different ways how you can invite others to your board. In the end, super easy, just a few clicks, and you can share the board with all the needed security settings. Now, let's imagine we are creating a workshop together. So in our case here now, if we look at that board, we have a structure, so it goes from left to right, but it doesn't seem to be very super organized where I can just click on one button and see the structure. But this is possible in Collaboard, so we have the option to work with something like quick links. And I have already created them before, so this allows me now to go to these specific sessions on the board. And as we know that a lot of people are used to work with PowerPoint, in Collaboard you have a similar view of the content you created on Collaboard by using here these quick links. So every part of the board, so let's just create one together. So let's take here the one for images and videos. So we can create here a quick link. Add as a quick link, we say here images and videos. And as soon as we do that, you see this part of the board appears here, and everybody can jump directly to this section on the board. So these quick links allows you to organize a workshop, a meeting, or whatever is happening on the board in a much more structured way. So you are completely free where to position things on the board, but you will always have a clear structure here on the right side under the quick links, which helps people to orientate themselves on the board. Now, let's imagine I'm inviting somebody to this board here. So maybe I don't want that that my attendees see already all the content. Maybe have a lot of activities planned and I want them really to focus on the first activity. So in this case, I have the option also to select content. And in this case, we don't pin or lock it. In this case, we hide it. And if I'm hiding it, then I still see it because I'm the facilitator and I need to know where the content is. But all the other attendees, they won't see anything. For them, this part of the board is just empty. And then when it comes to this activity, I just select it again and reveal it, and people can start working on that as well. So this is something very useful when you prepare a workshop. Invite the people, create the quick links before, so everybody has access to a clear structure. Maybe show, maybe hide content that is not needed for the beginning. And don't forget what we checked when we talked about the brainstorming session. Don't forget to lock and pin things people shouldn't move around. This is always a very big help and leading sessions with the online whiteboard. Now, at the beginning, I asked the question, what do we do when we sit in front of an empty whiteboard and now we need to prepare a meeting, a strategy session, or whatever? Then you can really leverage all these templates we have here. So we see here templates for agile working, simple retrospective, Kanban boards, and so on. There are templates for strategies, for example. There are templates for onboarding, and so on. And let me just add one more template to show you also that you can customize the template. So if you're using here SWOT analysis, and that's maybe something a lot of people know, we can always adjust that as well. So we can click here on the template, and maybe strength is not what I would like to use in my native language, so I can change that. So I can always adjust this. And the templates you're creating here in Collaboard is something that you can also save as your own templates. And how this works is something of the webinar we are going to do next week. So next week on the, no, actually it's in 2 weeks, on the 4th of November, I will show you how to master digital whiteboarding. So we will look at advanced ways of working with Collaboard. So I will show you how to use Collaboard for larger meetings, for workshops, and for training sessions, and also how to structure a board in a very good way. Yeah, this is what I wanted to show you today. It's a basic introduction in the objects which you can add to the whiteboard itself, how you can work with them. And my goal was to also make you aware that working with the whiteboard in the end, it's not that difficult. As soon as you have understood how to work with one element, you see a lot of similarities. And then in the end, it's not the question on how to use the tool from where to click, where to click. It's more about how to use it conceptually, that brainstorming sessions, project planning meetings, retrospective work well. And this is something where we can help you as well, and especially in the webinar next week. So let's see if there are any questions in the chat so far. If not, feel free to add questions now. In case there are no questions, I assume everything that I explained was super clear. Of course, if you have questions afterwards, you can always reach out to us. We have a lot of videos on YouTube. There is also an online help. There was a question regarding the recording. Yes, there is a recording. We will put it in maybe one day on YouTube, and I will share the link with everybody who registered to the to the webinar today, and feel free to watch and share it with whomever could be interested in that. So it seems we don't have any more questions, which actually is great. So then thank you very much for your time, for attending the webinar today. I wish you successful sessions with Collaboard and look forward to see you again 4th of November. Thank you all and have a great afternoon, evening or day.